these days. The judiciary clamoring for autonomy, the local government's autonomy, some sections of the country autonomy. So, yeah, everyone is catching on to the word autonomy. But be reminded that you can be a part of the conversation. You're already a part of the conversation simply by listening to us, but you can take it a step further by commenting your thoughts. It's a two-way conversation between us here in the studio and you, and you can let us know what you think by typing out your thoughts and dropping them on either of our social media channels. We have Facebook at Splash FM 106.7. We're also streaming live, so if you prefer more of an audio-visual experience, you can watch us on Facebook and drop a comment in the comment section there. Twitter at Splash FM 106.7. Hashtag Panorama so you can easily track your tweets. And WhatsApp is 0817-555-1067. Just drop a comment there. I'll read it out loud. Phone lines will be open later on, but let's get into the subject of local government autonomy this morning.
Okay, we have joining us to have that conversation Barrister Kayode Aderemi, who is no stranger to us here as regards topic issues I'll bring to the fore. Well, he's a barrister, and so the legal angle will suffice for him to weigh in and give us his expert analysis in this regard. Good morning to you, Barrister Kayode.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right. We'll begin with some of the advocate stakeholders, what they've said as regards autonomy, and we'll pick it up from there. Stay with us. Panorama.
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 Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
In Nigeria, we have that kind of disconnect because of the operation of the government. We have 2 tiers of government, the federal, state, and the local government. And it's very difficult for the central government to come up with the policies that can really, really adequately take care of the we have 767 local governments, and the population is huge. And that is why there is tier of government called the local government. From my little experience in politics, when as a deputy governor, I was in charge of local governments in Bayelsa State. Then, of course, I moved up to become the president. The greatest failure we have in this country is the failure of the local government. Local government systems have failed, we must admit it. And I believe maybe we're talking about different, of course, you know more than me. The journalists are here every day, you hear about restructuring or no restructuring or evolution of power, whatever, new constitution or no new constitution, whatever we intend to do. One key area that we must consider is the local government. If the local governments are functional, then it's easy. I always say when I was in office, I prefer to even send money directly to local governments, just like it's been sent. But the way monies are being sent is not the way, a country as big as India, they send money from the center directly to communities. They have the structure. And these monies are used properly. When I was the governor of Bayelsa State, I was saying that I have no business to go and award contracts to renovate primary schools directly. If the local governments are functioning properly, and I wanted to make a difference, but then I stayed for 1 year, 5 months, 2 weeks, then I was dragged to Abuja. So that the state, any money they are used at the local primary school level should pass to the local council. They should be able to, because they know the schools within their local government, the ones that need innovation more than others. Not somebody staying at the state capital and going on only to some few communities. And even the ones that are so dilapidated are not touched. Rather, the ones that are still good are the ones that are renovated because of the weakness of the local government system. So if the local governments are functioning, when we were small, when we didn't have what is called local government now, we had divisions. The divisional officers used to be civil servants. And because they were civil servants and they report and they work based on the financial guidelines of the civil service and so on, the local government is more functional.
Panorama.
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 Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM. right, ex-President Jonathan with his thoughts as regards local government autonomy right there. Well, Barrister Aderemi, let's begin this way. You are a commissioner. What exactly and how does the law see the autonomy that these people are clamoring for and that has seemed to be the talk of a whole lot of people at about this point in time?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think we should begin by doing maybe a cursory look of what autonomy means. Because like Lola said, it seems to be the buzzword now. Everyone seems to want autonomy. Simply means self-governance, right? Where something or an institution rather self-regulates or self-governs. That's the basic meaning of autonomy. So when you say local government autonomy, it's a system whereby a local government can run or can self-govern, all right? You know, that happens basically when it's well institutionalized. That's what it means. So about what the law says about local government autonomy, we would have to make reference to Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution. When we're discussing law matters, it's better to go beyond the realms of guesses and speculations, all right? So what the law says specifically, if I may read not quite long a choice, that people can understand exactly what the ground law, that's mother of all laws, talks or says about that. It says that the system, that's Section 7, subsection 1 of the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, the system of local government by democratically elected local government councils is under this Constitution guaranteed. That means there shall be a local government, in short. That's the first part, then the semicolon, then it continues. And accordingly, the government of every state, e.g. Ogun State, shall, subject to Section 8 of the Constitution, and Section 8 talks about additional local government. For example, if you want to have a Jebu government, for example, so and so like that, or Splash FM local government, for example, Section 8 regulates that. So where that is going to happen, that's in subject to that, then the state government shall ensure the existence of local government under a law. That's the problem. So it is the state that would legislate, but not just existence. Let's hold our breath. Existence, that would, number one. Number two, establishment. Number three, structure. Number four, composition. Number five, finance. And number six, functions. So where there is someone or a body that determines all these key things, what is left? So that's why it is so easy for states to kind of hamstrung government. So the condition is clear that state government simply will run local government. That's what it says. So when you're fighting for local autonomy, it can't be wished. The law is very clear on that. So even if, for example, we have some kind of dilemma or difficult situation, but I believe it's deliberately so. Local governments in Ogun State, for example, have finished their terms maybe like a year or thereabouts, a long time ago. Yeah. The problem is this. Before Governor Amoson left Okimoson, that's the governor's office, Governor Dakpabedun had already, there was election, and we already knew who the next governor was going to be. Right. Even before the erstwhile one left. It doesn't happen like in local government. Local government elected officers finish their term, not knowing who is going to take over from them, and that may even prolong for 1, 2, 3, in some cases 4 years. You know, these are the problems, and I think they were deliberately skewed that way, so as to further allow the states to hamstrung them. But that's my opinion anyway. But I've read what the law says. So how can they be autonomous when the strongest or mother of all laws in Ogun State, remember Section 1, Subsection 3 of the same Constitution says that any law that is not consistent with the Constitution shall be null and void to the extent of physical consistency. So even if there is a law that says otherwise, this will override. So that's what the problem is.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you read out Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution as it pertains to local government autonomy. Now, the first part that you read was sort of talking about the administration of local governments by democratically elected officials, if I'm not mistaken. And then the second part was, it's been under the purview of the state governments. As things stand now, we have no fewer than 13 states in the country that run local government administrations without elected officials. And there's a court judgment actually delivered by the Supreme Court on 9th December 2016 that voided laws enacted by state houses of assembly empowering governors to sack elected local government chairmen and councillors and replace them with hand-picked administrators. So how do you sort of marry the two of them together? In one part of that section 7, it talks about local governments being run by democratically elected officials, and then in the second part, it puts it under the jurisdiction of state government. And obviously, we've seen that state governments have sort of manipulated this, the two laws. But then the Supreme Court is saying that this is illegal, yet it persists.
No, the case you referred to, I think it emanated from Ekiti. I think so, quite a long time ago. It went on until it got to the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court is saying there is that it is wrong for a state governor. Maybe we'll still get to whether it is right. You know, oftentimes it is being touted or said around that number one man in the state is the governor. Whether that is right, how that came to be, if time permits, we can look at that today. But let's put that aside and look into this first. There's something we call, when you approach the court, there's something we call issues for determination. So when you approach the court, for example, there must be an issue you have placed before the court that you want the court to determine on.
Okay.
All right? So what was to be determined in that case was whether or not the governors have powers to sack or remove an elected local government official. Of course, if it's a caretaker committee, he appointed them in the first place. All right? So if he appointed, he can sack. But for elected members, no, the people elected that person. So it would be wrong for one person, even for anybody, even for a president, to remove the government chairman. That's what that place has got to say. But it's so bad that it's gone so bad that governors think that they are the alpha and the omega of local government, and that is what really happens. Because you've seen even finance, according to what this Section 7 says, is to be determined by the state government. And of course, it's not state government just by the way, it has to be a law. State laws are made by the various houses of assemblies. But we know, I have been in a place before where a particular speaker of a state house of assembly was calling the governor. He was older than him by age to start with. And he was saying, Oga. And I thought, bros, relax. He's the head of executive. Fine. You are the head of legislature. That's cool. We have the CJ who heads the judiciary. These are 3 tiers of government in a way unrelated. So why are you calling him Oga? It's not difficult to fathom. It's just that the way the payments are made, the state government, the executive takes custody of these funds and disburses. That's the problem. So when someone pays you, you can choose to punish you with your fees. I understand that most local government officials get bailouts or doles, not exactly what is coming from the federation account. So the way the things are done, for those that don't understand really well, is that taxes are pulled together from all states, sent to Abuja, and local governments, same thing for judiciary and for legislature. Their monies are disbursed straight from the federal, which is wrong anyway. It ought to be the other way around anyway, from the federal. So once that money is disbursed, it is the state government executive particularly that takes custody. The courts are on strike now for a similar reason. What the court workers are saying is that let the judiciary get our money and give it to us.
Directly.
Don't let it be the governor every time. So he has wielded so much power that most of them, they've forgotten that these people are elected in the first place. So to write this thing, which time for me to look at how to write them. But clearly it's wrong because the law has said their function, their establishment, their powers, virtually everything, their structure will be determined by the law of the state, which will be made by the lawmakers of the state. And unfortunately, most lawmakers of the governor as their boss. So what are we talking about here, really? So that's the problem.
Okay. We'll bring the out into this very shortly, but before we do, Barrister, I'll stay with you. Now, while growing up, I recall that I was taught that there are 3 arms of government. There are 3 tiers of government.
Yes, we were told.
On the evidence of all you have said, would you say that the local government is just a tier of government in vocabulary?
It's in theory. I mean, you heard what Lola said. It is there.
What I said?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you read or said, I don't know, but it came from you, like about 13 states or so.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem. I mean, how could you even feel kind of castrated if, for example, I'm vying for local government chairman, and I know that until the governor says I'm ready, I can't be elected. Of course, that's a kind of I'm beaten, I'm defeated already to start with. All right. So there's a lot of problem, but it doesn't happen like that with the lawmakers, for example, the governors, president, and the likes. Before Buhari leaves in 2023, for example, a new one will have been elected, but yet to be sworn in. That's how it ought to be. Look at now, Ogun State. I read about the news, for example, some days ago that the governor said the election for states will soon be ready. You can imagine that. So it is not a matter of law. Even if it says I'm busy now until 2022, so be it, because the law is, I think, deliberately silent on that. So clearly, it's a theoretical thing. It's not. You heard Jonathan talk about it. You heard Bajaber Miller speaker, Honorable Speaker talk about it at the assembly, and then here am I talking about it too. So it's more of a theoretical thing. In practical sense, they are like an appendage of the state government.
All right, Dawud also joins us. Good morning to you, Dawud. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Gbenga, good morning. Lola, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let me cast your mind back. If you recall, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum at the moment, Kairi Fayehun, he was asked a question about this sometimes, I think it was 2 years ago, and then he said, and I'll read verbatim what he said. He said, as far as we are concerned, the position of the NGF on the issue of Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFI, on council funds, the directive on local government fund is the position of the law. There is no law that has been passed in the country on local government autonomy. Is this, despite the call and clamor for the autonomy of the local government, is this a deliberate attempt on the part of a lot of state governments to ensure that the autonomy of the local governments is not what sees the light of day?
I'll say yes. And because they enjoy it. And then masses seems to be kind of like a daisika. You know, was it not last year or 2 years? So many things. So, and we have been talking about the reason local government should be allowed to operate independently. But I have another view. One of the reasons we are clamoring for autonomy for the local government is because we don't enjoy local government. There is no good governance. If states government can continue playing that overbearing role on local government and we are still getting what we want, we may not bother. Just like somebody want to become a governor of this state, and it's a Christian, it's a Muslim, it's not necessary. Can he give us good governance? So if the state government will continue to, playing that overbearing role on them, but if you can still see a lot of development, we may not bother. So the state has muzzled the local government to the extent that starting from the emergence of the administrators, you will know that, like the law said, they are not only serving as appendage, they are in the pocket. And that is why, and I dare them, nobody, none of the local government chairman can look at the governor in his face and challenge him. He's a gunner, because the power is too enormous. So they will do whatever the governors want them to do. It is not what the states want. The governor can say, okay, I want to construct a road around Urban Toko. Not the popular road, the inner road. And local government has no choice. There are so many roads of local government that have been taken over by the states. So, and then if you also look at it, like Barrister has given us the technical aspect of it, there are so many things that are wrong. Like we are clamoring for restructuring. There is need to sit down and rejig it. We are taught in this social study or political science that we have 3 tiers. I want to tell you, we only have 1.5, and I'll explain. State cannot survive without federal. They still go cap in hand. We can also measure their independence. Sincerely, we can measure their independence. If federal government decide that it's not giving them money, they'll be shouting. Are they independent? Somebody that feeds you has enormous power on you. So if you are talking about autonomy, you must start at, you must also look at that self-subsistence. How self-subsistent are the local government? Can they survive without states? What is the length of their IGR, their revenue generation base? These are issues. If a local government chairman can say, okay, regardless of whatever the governor gives me, let me think. Let me wear a thinking cap. Let me look at the potentials abound in my local government and then generate funds without unnecessarily inconveniencing people. So these are issues. When we are talking about autonomy, we have to also look at it from another way that Nigerians may not bother if we are getting what we want.
Okay, Daud, tell us what the local government, what are their functions? If they were operating as they should, ideally, what are the things that, the responsibilities that lie with the local government, the things that perhaps now the people go berate the governor for that ideally should be within the jurisdiction of the local government?
You know what led to this Fabian rule? I remember there was a year local governments could not pay salaries of teachers and some workers. So they needed to now call for rescue from the state. And it was now agreed that, okay, let's take over some of their responsibilities. If you check, in 1981, that was the beginning of joint account by the administration of Shehu Shagari. If you check it very well, the man meant well because it was mono economy. We all got our revenue from oil wealth. So, we need that, okay, if we share revenue from the same source, okay, why can't we have a joint account? Good and sincere mind, but the subsequent government abuse it. So, if you want to say the rules, their rules are well articulated. Even the law also talks about it. It is a government on its own. So everything a government is expected to do, providing road, providing infrastructure facilities, security, all those things. Those are the rules. All the schools that fall within the local government, the local government administrators are expected to fund the schools and then the teacher, the workers. So, but unfortunately, what led to this loss of autonomy is that power to get money to fund from the project. If today governors allow local government, they'll still have problems. Autonomy. They have to define that autonomy. The autonomy must extend to the choice of the leadership. In any moment from now, we are going to have a local government election in Ogun State. And you will see, check the body language of PDP. They didn't care. They didn't even disturb them because they know that no party will win.
Because of the administration in control right about
now. It has been for long. When former Governor Gbenga was there, it was PDP all through. When former Governor Mosu was there, it was AC and APC. So, and that is how it has been all over. So, if you check the posters, you only see poster of APC candidates. It is APC versus APC or APC against APC. That is the problem. The emergence of the administrator has been compromised. Let's start from there. Let Gbenga come out without being sponsored by the governor or government. Let him get elected. That is number one, autonomy. So their emergence, there is no autonomy in the emergence. What are you now talking about? So they are going to be spoon-fed, because all of them now, they are running around looking for how to call people from the governor, so that they will, I've told them, they will just call the election. It's not going to be there's not going to be any election. It's going to be coronation. Sincerely. So let's start from there. Let's argue it out that let the election be conducted by Federal INEC. Sincerely. So if INEC will kind of conduct it, there will be a kind of a sheer autonomy.
Okay.
There was a kind of independence. So if you can achieve that, you can achieve others.
All right. Well, moving over now to Barrister Adiremi. Let's look at what the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, said regarding local government autonomy. Now, I'm reading from the Nation newspaper now, and he said, it is not for us as legislators to do that. I'm sure you're surprised, but it's actually for the people to address. We have constitutional amendments. We'll throw it to the people, and they will make their decision. We did it the last time and went back to the states as required by Constitution, but we couldn't get 2/3. There's a process, and we follow due process. Now, clearly, you and Daud have clearly stated that autonomy of the local government is not entrenched in the Constitution, and you have Gbajabiamila here saying that it has been attempted. There has been an attempt to alter it, and that is actually true. There was an attempt in 2015, between 2015 to 2019, but as he said, there were some states, most of the states didn't vote in favor of it. Now, walk us through the process of constitutional amendment to ensure local government autonomy. What would it take to constitutionally amend the constitution to make way for full autonomy of the local government?
Well, loosely speaking, it's basically and generally can be categorized into two major steps. One is there has to be a bill to that effect, a bill for an amendment of the section so and so of Constitution.
Okay.
And then if it's Constitution, like you've asked, there has to be a concurrence or an agreement by at least 2/3 of the states in the country. And that's what Badabella was talking about.
2/3 of the states, as in the states' houses
All
of
the
assembly?
States, yes,
Okay.
yes, they have to concur, because Constitution guides everyone, it's a grown norm, like I said anyway. So there has to be a concurrence of at least 2/3 of the states after same has been passed by the National Assembly or the both levels. Now that's basically what would happen before there can be an amendment. But that would take me to, I think what Honorable Bemela says is almost akin to a populist statement, in the sense that, he's a lawyer. So that was a very smart one he did there. I've spoken to some members of the House of Assembly of Ogun State. If the speaker is listening to me of Ogun State, I'm sure he can confirm this. I've engaged him a couple of times. That the idea of voice votes should be outlawed. It's oftentimes rippled with fraud. Now, governance is majorly about the people. Look at the most popular definition of democracy: government of the people, by the people, for the people. So the common denominator or common words in those three phrases is people, is the word people. But the reverse is the case. Why would there be a plenary in Ogun State, for example, and the person, for example, representing Odeda has not heard from me, a constituent member that voted you in? So how exactly are we sure that you are going there to represent my interest? The idea is this. That's why all local governments have somebody representing them in the House of Assembly. That's the essence. So the idea is to have town hall meetings, etc., collate their views. Not your view. Take it to the plenary. When there's a plenary, relate it to the House. Move a motion to that effect, if possible, if need be, sponsor a bill to that effect. That is the essence. But how many times are they meeting them? You see, that's why I've said, if there's going to be a vote, for example, for local government autonomy, the way it is done. Once the National Assembly passes it to states, do the people,
The
representatives,
state lawmakers.
do they go back to say, what do you exactly want? I mean, when last did that happen? I mean, you are a journalist. When last did you see that? So we have, that's why in a way, I have a little bit divergent view, respectfully, to Mr. Dawood, to the extent that, if he was saying that if we get what we want from local governments, we won't bother how it is done. Me, I will bother. But that is how monsters are born. Things should be institutionalized. That is, for example, why should there be NSAS panel if there was justice? Like I asked them, NSAS panel will finish their job by this April in Ogun State. So if a police officer kills by May, after they have ended their job, there will be another protest, Abi. You set up another one. Why do you have to call the CP or AG when something goes wrong? So the system ought to run. So when there is a spontaneous action to things, of course, we can't envisage all problems of life. Vices will always emerge every day as long as human beings exist. But when they exist or when they happen, the right thing to do is to build a system around this, with or without somebody. Something can be done.
And that can be done through the law.
Legislation, really.
Legislation.
So until what the Demeda said it's more of a populist thing. When was the I don't even know what the person representing me. When was the last time you were contacted, Lola? for the person representing your local government, there should be. Thank God you're even a journalist. So people like you, for example, and I'm not sweet talking. You should be asked what exactly, because you hear from people by virtue of your job. You hear from politicians, from lawyers, from this and that. Yeah, so naturally, it should be vast. They should ask you, what do you think? Okay, this is Abiola way. What is happening? For example, in Olorunsogo Abiola way here, accidents happen every other week. And ghastly, my office is there. So happen. I mean, what is difficult about that? If, for example, they met me there or met us there, it doesn't have to be, it can even be CDA chairman. Put them together. What exactly are your challenges? Okay, people die here every other week. Then go to the plenary. If it's, of course, that wasn't in the law, executive order is enough to do like speed bumps or something. Just for instance.
Okay.
But they don't even know feedback mechanism as far as I'm concerned. So there ought to be town halls in every local government, and they ought to be meeting every time. Hear their views. Take note. Let there be minutes of meetings. So with that, you engage your lawmakers. It will be difficult for them to even go there and sleep.
Okay, Barrister,
like we see on the TV for the national most times.
I mean, you've said a lot, and that's like a whole kettle of fish. That's probably going to take up the whole day for it to linger on it. But I'm glad that you said two things. You spoke about, you highlighted institutionalizing these some of these reforms so that it's not a one-off, so that it's not spontaneous. And you also spoke about executive orders. Now, Dawood also mentioned that financial autonomy is important for the local governments to self-govern, and that is true. We remember the president granting an executive order, or giving an executive order to signing an executive order to grant financial autonomy to local governments, which the governors kicked against, and which we haven't heard reports of it being followed. So that's one case of legislation that's disregarded. On paper, constitutional amendments is the way to grant or make the local government a true third tier of government. But if we have a case where the president signed an executive order and it's not being followed to the letter, what is the assurance that even when it's backed by law, the governors, the governors would obey it? And I'm also saying this because when I raised the Supreme Court judgment, the 2016 one that voided the ability of governors to sack democratically, Imo and Oyo states, as reported by the Punch, still sacked their local government administrators and employed caretakers. You said, okay, they can employ caretakers, but they can't sack. But they still did that. So I'm mentioning these instances of the law being breached to sort of say, are we sure that even when it's backed by the law, it will run smoothly, it will auto-run, in your words?
Well, that ties back to institutionalizing things. I saw the video of when National Assembly members were asking the COA some questions. I mean, and the man was arrogantly cocky. I mean, it looked as if he was literally schooling those people. You can't ask me that. Check your paper. I mean, you came there to be questioned. I expected immediate sanction. That's how monsters are created. That's a bad precedent. You were there to be questioned, for God's sake. No, you were questioned, you were telling them, read the book is there in front of you. I mean, that means if you had this way, you shoot them and get out. Very rude, really. So back to institutions, like I've always said, if for example, it is institutionalized, look at, and I'll give an example, let me say it first. If it's institutionalized, it will be easier to do. For example, the law is that, like you have said, Lola, it is unlawful for a governor to sack an elected government official. Yes. So if they do it, the question is, what is the consequence? that we can say that for sure this is the consequence. The consequence, for example, can be that you lose your gratuity for life. Or you know that there is political holders pensions law of Ogun State. Many states have it.
Yeah.
What if it is there that once you disobey court judgment, for example, there are no consequences now? Why won't they do it again? So if it is made, and it can, if once it's a law, it can be that strong. For example, look at my bros, SDM, Senator Dino Belai, as vocal as he is. I thought he was going to, when he had issues with Matter DME, that's the guy that replaced him, right? I thought he was going to stay in the Senate and say, I don't go. The guy can be very funny at times. I thought he was going to do some drama, but he knows that there are consequences. It could be picked up. He sat straight. But where there are no consequences, you do what you want, of course, even under the law. The Constitution says, Section 36, I think Section 12 or thereabout, under fair hearing, it states that a law, you can't be punished for a crime that does not exist. Yeah. So that's why when Yahoo started in Nigeria, there were no repercussions. Because at the time, we didn't have cyber crimes and anti-terrorism, blah, 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 law and act, rather. So they did it and they went away. If police arrested them, what would you charge them for? It was wrong. We knew it, but there was no law. Really, So that's the problem. So where there are consequences, and not consequences that Buhari will now say, I hear about the investigation. We're on top of the situation. It's a committee set up. No, that's spontaneous. There ought to be some definite repercussions or consequences for definite actions. But where there are none, even if I were the governor, I can sack you, Gbenga, even if Lola, if you are elected, because I know that if I do it, nothing will happen.
All right. It's a two-way conversation, so let's not hear just us from this side of the radio. We want to hear you as well to be a part of the conversation. So we're opening the phone line to pay attention to your calls now. 0704 400 1067, 0704 400 1067, 0817 444 1067, and 0817 555 1067. I should also let you know that the final number, which is 0817 555 1067, also doubles as a WhatsApp line. So for those who want to be a part of these via WhatsApp, that is also the line to send your messages to. We are live on Facebook at Splash FM 1067. We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your name?
Afolabi is my name. I'm calling from Abeokuta.
All right.
I want to greet the barrister in the house, Barrister Direct. You are a voice to the voiceless. And you have also spoken my mind this morning. And this is what I always say. We are living in a country that has a law or a constitution, but no institution shall guide the execution of these laws. Then it will amount to not, if not happy. That is my own belief. Then coming back to Sajabi Amila, I want to say he's wrong for saying there's nothing they can do about it. There's only left for the state. If there are existing laws, there can be amendments. According to what the barrister read this morning, there is no way the states will grant any autonomy to these people, to the local government. So this law can be amended and to suit the clamor for autonomy of the local government. But they will not do it. Okay, the president for some times will say that the issue of restructuring belongs to the National Assembly. That they should be the ones to take care of it. Are they even waking up one day and think it's good for them to do? Despite the fact that Nigeria is already sinking. They are insensitive. We all know this. So we shouldn't be deceived. And things will work out the way we want. Good morning once again.
All right. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Already sinking? I'm not so sure. Okay, Nigeria is afloat. Hello, good morning.
Dr. Gbenga, good morning.
Gbenga is my name. Remove the doctor.
Dr. Mrs. Lola, good morning.
Good morning, Abayo, Lola.
Voice for the voiceless, Barrister Aderemi, good morning. Alaji Dawood, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Abayomi is my name. I'm calling from Abeokuta this morning. I listened to both of you and, as usual, impressive. But then, Barrister, I still want to put this to you. That We have a constitution in place. You were reading out some sections of the constitution that our leaders refuse to comply with. That is the word. They refuse to comply with those provisions. No matter how defective the existing constitution could have been, if we had complied like 20% or 30% with it, we wouldn't be where we are today. Now, back to my suggestion. My suggestion is this. The leaders have failed us. It is not, the onus is now on us, the followers, to think of how to change these leaders legally, how to change these leaders without shedding blood, and that is by our vote. We have to sensitize our people. Enough of this feeding bottle idea of election, where they will share money for everybody and say go and vote for somebody. We have to start now. We won't wait until 2023. We know they have failed us. They are not ready to bring solutions to us, but the solution lies with us. It is now on us to find solution and effect that solution so that the future of this country can be guaranteed. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Abayomi.
Don't forget that you can drop a comment for us on social media. Facebook at Splash FM 1067, Twitter at Splash FM 1067, hashtag Panorama, and WhatsApp 0817-555-1067.
All right. Well, Abayomi's suggestions, will they send shivers down the spines of those who are there now? I don't know. But let's listen to Gbenga also talk about this, as well as Senate Minority Leader Ndudi Elumedu. Stay with us.
Don't dare touch that dial. It's Splash, your integrity station.
The system we have in place now, with an overemphasis on the centralized policy planning and implementation at the federal government level, has not served us well. We have an obligation to try as much as we can to change the status quo in favor of an alternative that serves present needs and meets future expectations. At the same time, there is an evident need to improve the capacity of those who serve as local government administration.
Of the governors. But let me also clearly state that one of the states that voted for local government autonomy was Delta State. My governor supported it in the last time when it came in the 2015 to 2019 amendment alteration. He supported it, and the Houses of Assembly of Delta State, there were about 10 states that voted in favor of it. Delta was among them. So the issue about my state voting for it again is not in question. We will vote for it. It's now left for other states to know that there is need for them to emulate what Delta has done.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
All right, so there you heard them. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbenga, as well as Minority Leader of the Senate, Ndudi Elumedu. They mentioned how his state was part of the 10, I believe, that supported this, or the state's houses of assembly the last time they had to visit this conversation. So 10 out of 36.
That's not too bad.
At all.
Nowhere
doesn't
near
equate to...
So that is 24.
Yeah. And so does that eventually not even come to suggest that the state's houses of assembly are complicit in this particular situation?
And I want to add or tack onto that question. There's a belief, it's not on paper, but there's a belief that states are houses of assembly, and both of you have sort of echoed this in some way, that states houses of assembly are subject to the whims of the governor. So we have like governors who we are trying to devolve powers from, to give more powers to local governments, and to do that, you have to go through states' houses of assembly. And yes, the state houses of assembly too are sort of under the influence of that same governor. So it's kind of like a catch-22 situation. But I'll let Dawood answer this question.
You cannot give what you don't have. Even the state assembly in the country do not even have that autonomy. So how would they give what they don't have? And you don't hit Don't talk when you are eating. So, you see, Lola Gbenga is like Nigeria is not ready. With rapt attention, I listened to the law. Incidentally, for the first time, I'm saying it.
That's already done.
I did. Yeah. All these lawmakers, they were, from the beginning, they were never our representatives. So how would they represent us? You see, that I think you are following me. If they are genuine, the representatives of us, definitely they will do what we want. They will never do it, and they cannot do it. That is why they need to reconfigure Nigeria. Does he get the independent? Is he independent? Himself as an individual, is he autonomous? Is he independent? They give him script now. So we know we will achieve this the day we get representative of the people. Like the Bible said, democracy is the government of people all through. It's a lie, it's a scam. Because let us analyze. The government of the people. Which people? By the people. Which people? For the people. For who? So it's a scam. If you are not lying, you want to go by that definition. Let us analyze. How far has democracy served as government of the people? We say it's our government. We are the one that will determine what you do for us. It is not that governor will just stand and say, I want to do this a road in Agbado. No, you ask us. People that look at what is happening in Lafewa Randa. It is absurd. Because of a personality, you constructed a portion of road and you left others. And nobody is talking. The people are not talking. And you say it's the government of people. Which people? So it's a scam from the beginning. If you want to really enjoy democracy, let us sit down and say, okay, let us analyze the emergence of these people. We should look at it. Let them emerge truly. I live in Abeokuta South. If I meet Abeokuta South lawmaker, I swear to God I don't recognize him. So what are you talking about? And he will be saying that he's representing Abeokuta South. How? It's emergence. Before he emerged, where was he? Who knew him? Who brought him in? These are issues now. We are just, I like the way we are, but the truth of the matter is, I've given a model. This NSAS, whatever, enough of roaming about or wandering about protests on the road. Let us get 26 clear-headed youths in Ogun State. Let Ogun State be a model. Don't struggle governorship seat with Dapo Abiodun. I'm not a prophet. He has won 2023.
You're not sure yet. There has to be an election.
Oh God. He has won.
Okay, you're making a prophecy as to what.
I'm not even prophecy. What is prophecy? Those that will challenge him are already in the net. Mention. DNI is already there. Bankole just joined. Basheda has joined.
Well, we'll re-examine what you said.
So now I'm saying that Adebudu that will challenge him is battling with Kachamu, what was it called? Faction. So is walk over. But I'm saying that if you are sure in Ogun State, we just need 26 youth. I don't know, is it that another thing? That's when you are eating, you don't talk. Barrister, I've been reading him, I've been feeling him. It's better I'll be saying him. I can say that I don't know if we give him that power, if he will not change. I say that. I say I don't know. If you give me two, you are not sure. Because when you are eating, you don't talk. How do we get 26 youth? Serious minded people. As state lawmakers, let's start from there. And let them be the new representative of the people.
But the question doesn't always seem to be how they get there. It's what happens after they get there.
They cannot. What are you talking about? We are talking about how they got there matters. Lola, if you got there like this, you can call the bluff of Mr. Governor. they cannot deny it.
If Mr. Governor pays my dues, I can come.
Are they independent? Is he independent?
Unfortunately, we have to go now.
So the issue is financial autonomy is not there. Executive has dominated, overbearing role. Is the one paying the bills of all other tiers and arms of government. Judiciary is the executive that will pay. Executive that will determine the chief judge. The executive that will determine the law. When they wanted to appoint elected speaker of the House Assembly, you know the drama that happened. So these are issues.
Okay, unfortunately, we have to wrap up the issue of today's segment right here because we have some bills to pay. Well, we can continue the conversation on social media, by the way. We're live on Facebook, so feel free to drop your comments and your thoughts and everything you want to talk about. And we'll read all of those comments that have come through right after we
Fantastic as always. Thank you both.
You studied a lot.
I mean,
notes upon notes.
I know lawyers are often called the law, but this one is actually the law.
You don't talk while it's in.
Thank you very much for your time. We'll return in a few minutes to take the rest of your contributions via social media and proceed from the pages. Stay with us.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Splash FM.
IAS ohun tó bá sọ ni wọ́n máa ṣe o. IAS ohun tó bá sọ ni wọ́n máa ṣe. Àǹfààní ayọ̀ kan ló wọlé mi pẹ̀rẹ̀. Ó pọ̀ débi pé mi àtẹ̀bí mi a ò lè dájú tó lóhun tó bá náírà kò sí fẹ́ nìkan rárá. IAS mi rẹ tí mò ń sọ wá gbọ́. Àǹfààní eléyìí tó ta wọ́n yọ gidi. San 20,000 nínú owó ilẹ̀. Tó bá fẹ́ tó bá tíkẹ̀ tó máa fi jẹ kámẹ́rì tuntun jájá. Big Daddy pẹ̀lú mọ́tò ló ń bẹ nílẹ̀ fún ẹ. Jájá san 20,000 nínú owó ilẹ̀. Tó bá fẹ́ tó bá tíkẹ̀ tó máa fi jẹ kámẹ́rì tuntun jájá.
Wow! Láti jẹ nínú àǹfààní yìí, kàn sí iléeṣẹ́ IAS pé 09033773189.
Ẹ má gbàgbé o, ọjọ́ kẹfà oṣù kẹfà la máa ṣe àgbéyẹ̀wò iye ẹni tí tíkẹ̀ẹ̀tì oríire ti wà lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀.
Ẹ káàárọ̀ olùkọ́ wa.
Ẹ káàárọ̀, ẹ jókòó.
Ẹ ṣé olùkọ́.
Iṣẹ́ ìwádìí tí mo ní kẹ́ ṣe nípa ohun tó lè fa àkóbá fún ìlera ara wa. Ṣé ẹ ti ṣe?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni olùkọ́.
Ó yá, ṣẹ́ wà.
Bí oúnjẹ tí a jẹ ò bá dábọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ nínú wa tó kún á bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kùn, ó sì lè ṣokùnfà àìrí oorun sùn tó lè wá di àìsàn ńlá nígbẹ̀yìn.
Ayọ̀mídé ńkọ́?
Bí ènìyàn bá sọ̀rọ̀ lásọjù, kò ní lè mí dáadáa. Ìyẹn sì lè jẹ́ kí ó má ní àlàáfíà tó péye láàgọ́ ara.
Ọ̀nà mẹ́rin wọ́n ńkọ́?
Jíjẹ nǹkan tó dùn ní gbogbo
tó wà ní olómi àti oníkóró. àti osconto capsule ní ìgbàgbọ́yẹmí pharmacy adigbe triple value pharmacy láfẹnwá arọ́jò pharmacy ọbàntoko jose pharmacy ní sango osconto mixture àti osconto capsule iléeṣẹ́ holy peace herbal ventures ló ń ṣe wọ́n jáde tó wà ní nọ́mbà 4 òkè àbẹ̀tú off abiola way mádojútìmí junction abẹ́òkúta tàbí kẹ́ ẹ pè wá sórí 08028121088.
Let's talk about sport. From the end-to-end stuff or sometimes ball sparking and rigidity of a football game to the adrenaline pumping and high-octane energy sport of Formula One.
Gerrard slipped and Denver Barr's in here. Barr punishes of all people Steven Gerrard. It's the worst possible scenario for Sebastian Vettel, who started on the second row and is now running right down at the bottom of the field.
How about the exchange of blows in boxing and mixed martial arts to games of athletics, tennis,
From close range, forget about it.
golf, basketball, and more? Join the sports team for high-profile interviews, previews, and reviews on the Integrity Station, Splash 106.7 FM. For Sports Cafe every weekday by 11:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m.
Are you ready for some football?
Sports Cafe, all things sports, lives here.
èrè ọ̀pọ̀ pọ́yọ̀kúrè lórí ilẹ̀ Ajíkòròdé Homes and Property Nigeria Limited ká tún fi ṣe bò kẹ́ẹ̀kẹ́ oṣù yìí lórí àǹfààní tí kò lábùlà. ilẹ̀ máa wò kọ́ Blessed Estate ìrìn ìṣẹ́jú márùn-ún 100,000 naira ní. bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni ilẹ̀ Excellent Estate Rounder 100,000 naira ní lórí ìrìn ìṣẹ́jú mẹ́wàá. ilẹ̀ òṣèlè náà ń tà wìtìwìtì 250,000 naira ní lórí ìrìn ìṣẹ́jú márùn-ún péré. Sódẹ̀kẹ́ ti tún ti ń tà wàràwàrà báyìí 250,000 naira ní. bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń ra ilẹ̀ èyíkéyìí níléeṣẹ́ Ajíkòròdé Homes and Property Nigeria Limited lẹ láǹfààní láti máa gba ohun èlò ilé bíi standing fan, plasma TV, iron, washing machine, gas cooker pẹ̀lú àwọn ohun èlò ilé mìíràn. wọ́n wà ní number 3 Adata Road Ìsàlẹ̀ Akẹ́ Lẹ́gbẹ̀ta House Lábẹ́òkúta 09035750706 09035750706. ìparí oṣù kẹrin làǹfààní yìí yóò máa. àǹfààní rẹ̀ fẹ́yìn tẹ́ fẹ́ ra lẹ̀ torí pé àǹfààní ọ̀tun ni láti gba nǹkan lé pẹ̀lú ẹ̀ máa gbọ́ wìtì.
1960 bet ti gbọ̀nà ara yọ pẹ̀lú ìṣàkóso tuntun láti múnú gbogbo àwọn oníbàárà àti àwọn olùfẹ́ eré ìdárayá dùn tààrà. pàápàá lásìkò ayẹyẹ ọdún Easter bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ṣe ń ta àwọn ayò oríire 1960 bet lẹ́wọ̀n máa jẹ́ yàfùnyàfùn. ẹ lè tayò 1960 bet lórí ayélujára www.1960bet.com tàbí kí ẹ kàn sí àwọn aṣojú lárọ̀wọ́tó yín. èèyàn mẹ́ta yóò jẹ̀bọ̀ ọ̀kadà tuntun mẹ́ta láàrin 20 oṣù kẹta sí 30 oṣù kẹrin ni o. ọjọ́ kẹ́ni oṣù karùn-ún la ó kéde àwọn olóríire tó perégedé jùlọ nínú 1960 bet Easter Bonanza pẹ̀lú ẹgbẹ̀rún méjì náírà péré jẹ̀bọ̀ ńlẹ́rù tó jowó ẹ̀ lọ.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
Exactly 2 minutes past 9 o'clock, and it's time to segue into From the Pages. We'll take you through the newspapers, but before that, let's make a stop at social media, where we have comments from our issue of the day, where we took a look at local government autonomy. It was a very robust engagement and discussion, and we have comments from WhatsApp. This one is from Ibukumba Lola from Aregbe. He says, with the situation of things in Nigerian government, I don't think it is possible for the local government in Nigeria to be granted autonomy unless the populace rises up to the challenges and also ensures the effectiveness of the third tier of government in our great country. Good morning. Good morning to you as well. Samson U. Joseph says, beautiful morning. Is there any part of the Constitution that hasn't been flouted by our politicians? Look, laws in Nigeria are meant to oppress the poor. If we talk about constitutional amendment, it is the same set of people that will do it. Even in this era, the local government chairmen are there to serve the interests of the governor. Those faces you're seeing on billboards in Ogun State now are going to serve their own interests and that of the governor. Let me stop there, Jerry. Let us be sincere. People's interests are never in these politicians' heart. Gbenga, will you take us through Twitter?
All right, looking through Twitter, we have Tosin Wrights. He says, or she, not exactly sure, the much expected local government autonomy won't happen in Nigeria. Firstly, the LG aspirants were the tools used by the man to win the governorship seat. Expecting autonomy for LGs in Nigeria is like expecting to see a virgin in a maternity ward. Ain't gonna happen, right? Aderoju Victor says in Ogun State, for example, the local government was functional during the Alliance for Democracy AD tenure. It was functional during the PDP tenure. It was APC government that killed the local government. Good morning. Olufemi Olaoluwa mentions and says, I absolutely support the submission of Barrister Aderemi. Things have to change and must begin at the local government because they are the nearest to the people. About the APC being the start of the comatose local government that we have, Daoud, is that exactly the case? He sort of exonerated the PDP in this.
Don't mind them. Don't. I'm sorry. He's entitled to his opinion. He's correct because he's an individual, and that is how he looked at it. But APC got to the
2011.
So what are you talking about? And the guy did not start 2011. So
was local government functional pre-2011 in Ogun State? Was it? you know, did it have any semblance of autonomy?
Yeah, to an extent, yes. During the Gbenga era, no, I was here. Local government was very, very active. That was the last time we enjoyed local government administration. So
it might not be wrong after all.
I thought it meant the whole Nigeria.
No.
If I would say no. During PDP, that era, local government was very, very. That was the time they constructed some inner road. If you get to Enugada, that police station, there is a road beside it. Right. Third one was started by one local government chairman and some other. So we enjoy it, and then a share of it during former governor Sheikh Shoba. But when the APC came in, I don't know, maybe it was not part of the ideal. They kill it.
All right. These are the comments on Twitter.
Well, let's go to the newspapers now.
Before we do, we have one on Facebook.
Okay.
And this looks more like a question. Baba Lola Yanu says, what is an executive bill? What happens when such bills contradict the Constitution? An executive bill without the input of the governors, how sacrosanct could it be?
Oh, we would have loved to pass on your question to Barrister Coyote, but unfortunately he's left. But if I can ask him in person and then bring you feedback, I'll try and do that. All right. Well, we have the Vanguard. I have the Vanguard here.
That was me, Nigerian Tribune. And I'm looking at stories here on the front page of Nigerian Tribune. Kidnappers kill policeman, abduct 4 in Abuja, 3 women in Ibadan. The writer to that big story on the front page of the Tribune says, Amotekun arrests 3 suspected kidnappers in Ekiti Forest. You find that on page 29. IPOB warns Igbo youth against joining Ebubeagu. You find that on page 30. IPOB, by the way, means Indigenous People of Biafra. Governors move to end Jusun strike, meet leaders today. You find that on page 28. Police operatives reject 0.5 million naira bribe. That's 500,000 naira. Arrest suspect with stolen items in Lagos. You find that on page 5. Herder hacked to death. 8 others killed in Kaduna. You find that on page 30. Also, a story here says 7 years after Chibok abduction, over 640 students kidnapped between December 2020 and March 2021. That's coming from Amnesty International. A writer, well, 3 writers actually. The first one says Nigeria risks losing a generation. The second, 600 schools short of abduction fear. And the final writer, over 100 Chibok girls still in captivity. Page 2 has the details of all of those stories. That story in particular, pardon me. Appeal Court reinstates Edo Review Commission 13 years after dissolution. You find that on page 23. And maybe a news that will bring some ray of hope and optimism to the people. Adeboye Mitel Rufai says victory over insecurity around the corner. You find that on page 2. Akérèdọ́lù petitions police commissioner over former deputy's refusal to return government vehicles. You find that on page 26. 12.5% Nigerian children die before age 5. That's coming from Health Minister Osage Haniri. You find that on page 28 of the paper. Burkina Faso ex-president Compaoré to face trial over Sankara murder. You find that on page 22. And some bit of information as well on news. EFCC arrests Okorocha. You find that on page 2. I was trying to glance through this, breezing through Twitter on my way to work today, and we'll talk about the details of these and more. But these are the stories on the front page of Nigerian Tribune.
Do keep in mind that you can react to any of the headlines. We'll only be able to delve into detail on some of them, but if there's a headline that interests you, you can drop us a comment online or when we open the phone lines. Well, the big story on Vanguard appears to be doctors and nurses on strike in Ogun. And this is on kidnappings and killings. The riders include bandits kidnap women in Oyo, hunters await government approval to rescue victims. NURTW commences e-tracking of vehicles. And I heard Gbenga say something about Adeboye visiting El Rufai. There's a picture here of both men with the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El Rufai, receiving the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God at Sir Kashim Ibrahim Al House in Kaduna yesterday. Moving on now, Southeast Governors IPOB on collision course over Ebubeagu. Insecurity, 6 northern governors link up to fight banditry and terrorism. while Akeredolu petitions police over ex-deputy governor's refusal to return government vehicles. Southwest PDP Congress, no winner, no vanquished, says Bode George. Again, this story of the arrest of ex-Imo governor by the EFCC makes its way to the Vanguard, but it says here that it's over alleged 7.9 billion naira cash in banks. Apapa gridlock, NPA owners clash over impounded trucks. Khan says no to hijab in Christian schools. And finally, despite exiting recession, economy records minus 1.9% GDP decline. We have a boom, courtesy Daoud Olatunde, who's a reporter with the Punch newspaper. He's provided us with a copy of the Punch. Thank you very much. So we'll take you through the front page. And the big story on the Punch is Lalong saying governors oppose Buhari Executive Order 10, back financial autonomy. Riders, federal government cannot force governors to enforce financial autonomy. Plateau governor. NGF plans talks with judiciary workers to end Jusun's 8-day strike. And there's a picture of Muslim worshippers gathering for prayers. Remember, it's the second day of Ramadan. So sending our felicitations out, Daoud. Echo fasting. On page 7, JAMB accuses Uni Abuja others of giving illegal admissions. Uni Osun rejects under 16 admitted students, offers refund of fees. Adeboye visiting El Rufai saying Nigeria needs divine intervention. Cops, hunters go after abductors of 3 women on Ibadan, Ijebu-Ode Road. No place in Ogun safe, says NMA. Doctors, nurses begin strike. Once again, EFCC picking up Okorocha as he faces interrogators over money laundering. Saraki 2023 presidential bid. Posters floored Abuja. BUA, 27 others now have active refinery license. That's according to the Department of Petroleum Resources. Manufacturing Sector Intervention Fund now 803 billion naira. That's according to the CBM. And there we have it from Punch, Vanguard, and the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, let's start with maybe that news that has some form of optimism attached to it. Adeboye Mita Rufai says victory over insecurity around the corner. Well, Dawood, looking at this story, do the signs point to this, or it's just some sort of trying to paper over the cracks?
Anything spiritual, you can't explain. So you have to attach it to spirituality. So you have to have belief, you have to have faith. So it's talking about having faith. And there is nothing faith cannot do.
Could it be
but
linked?
Looking at it scientifically.
And physical science.
Physical science. That is not yet old. As he was talking, they still attack some villages in Kaduna. So these people are still attacking people, are still, getting away with murder. So
could the motive for his speaking out be linked to the kidnap of some members of his church recently?
No, you can't. I don't have that power to peep into his mind. But the man is a national or international figure. There's nowhere he gets to that the door will not be open to him. It could be because he's a leader that does not joke with his followers. Yes.
Okay. Now let's move to Ogun State now. No place in Ogun safe, says NMA. Doctors, nurses begin strike. I see that Daoud is a contributor for this story. Ogun State health workers on Tuesday condemned the high level of insecurity in the state and lamented that all parts of the state were becoming unsafe. The state chapters of the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, as well as the Nigerian Medical Association, stated this in separate interviews with the Punch while explaining their decision to begin a strike at 12 midnight on Tuesday. In a letter to the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tomi Koka, dated April 12, it hinged its decision on the kidnap of health workers in the states. Wow. Never thought I'd see the day when there'll be an intersection between health and security, but it appears we finally found. Health workers are now finally taking up, are now taking up the cause of insecurity because it's affecting their members. What do you say to this, Daud?
Yes, I spoke to both NMA chairman and that of Binam. And then they all said that they are not going back on the strike. And I asked them why, because they have released their colleagues. They said they are not even talking about the release or the kidnap. They are talking about that is safe for their members. So, and they will call off the strike. They will not call off. They should make the workplaces very safe for them. So that is their demand. And I don't know. And when I also talked to Remy Azan, he said, yes, he said government will do whatever I want to do. But let us look at it. Hospitals are not safe too.
But isn't that a pipe dream? Hospitals are not the only ones that are not safe. It's a general.
They can't talk for general now. If they are now talking that, people who want to read politics to it, let them talk as based on their own profession. They are talking on behalf of their members. They are not talking as NSC. It's NSC that will not say, okay, schools, other places are not safe. But they are medical workers. They are talking about, what's it called, health institutions that they want. They said those that are employed as gatemen or they are old men. And, just one scream, they can faint. So let alone that armed man or armed men. So there are so many instances that have happened. In fact, as I'm talking to you just last night, to yesterday, they kidnapped another teacher in Ijebubo. They have also kidnapped another doctor. So you see, the problem is the people, the previous victims have given a kind of wrong. The police said they are family person whose member is in capital. That were rescued from reliable source. They threatened that they would kill them. We didn't get the ransom. And so once you pay ransom, you definitely encourage that crime. But what is the best of think about? Look at the 13-year-old boy who was also released yesterday. From the body language too. Something was paid. But how much was paid, we don't know. This thing will continue to encourage these people. And there has been one narrative. All of them, all the victims have been saying Fulani is me. Sincerely. This is not about now going tribal now. The victims. When you ask them, how can you describe those that kidnapped? They say they are Fulani. Only that those few of them that understand Yoruba or Pidgin now communicate. So you have to sit down. You have to rework Nigeria. I'm a Yoruba man. I'm in my place. If you want to visit us as a Nigerian, yes, constitution allows you. But if your living will be inimical to me, you have to sit down. Now, if we have recorded 20 kidnapping cases in Lagos State, the one that were done by Fulani men could not be less than 16. I mean, water. You don't understand. So we have to sit down and say, come. Yes, not all of them are bad. But why what do they do? Why do they derive pleasure in doing that? So going to the question Lola asked, I want to agree with them that we should put government on the stove. But we should not allow this strike to linger because it will not affect these government officials. Some of them cannot afford going to private hospitals. So they should consider us. There are two elephants now fighting. They will not suffer. None of them will suffer. It is the graph. So I want to plead that yes, they have been able to let government know that yes, they are not happy. Government should also do the needful, but they should also consider us.
Okay, Daud, whatever knowledge of security you have, do you think what it would take to secure the hospitals is simply changing the bodyguards, the gate men to ones that are more active. Do you think they'll be able to stand up to kidnappers and killers?
It's also part of it too, precisely. When I was talking to Remy Azan last night, he said having uniformed men around hospitals does not guarantee security. I agree with him. But when we say security, they should beef up security. Either plain clothes people, you can mix it. All the joint what's it called? Joint squad. Soldier, policeman, NSDC, Amotekun, all these forms. So that, all of these people, when they also see that come, some of these hospitals are their way home or on their way to the offices. So even the monarch that was kidnapped was going for a meeting. So just except the boy that was kidnapped right in this house in front of his parents. So, but most of the kidnapping cases happen on our roads. So that, and then we've also checked Abeokuta to Imeko Road has state of that road. So there is no way if you are speeding when you get to a among others, you can just bump for you and then. So I think government should see it as a wake-up call and then beef up security. And the doctors and nurses should not see government as bad people. They may not. I'm trying to study this government. One of the issues we are having with the government is that it chooses not to adopt the system, what we call style of former governor. Former governor Ramoso, he had that charisma. Honestly, for instance, that the road is not good, he will trek. If he may trek there and not do anything, he may tell you that he will do, I may not do, but he will still give you that confidence. But this one is not talking. Sincerely, it's not talking. We expected that, okay, governors, nurses are threatening to. I didn't hear anything from the government. Sincerely, these are issues, but we can't compare two people. Gbenga and Lola are not the same. If you want to look at the way Gbenga behaves and say, measure Lola, we will fail because we are not different. So, Ogun people trying to, and myself inclusive, measure the current government using the parameter of immediate past administration. Not that he did, past administration did, what's it called? He tried his own best. He tried his own best. Whatever enemy is giving him, whatever, he did his own best and then he left. Government is continuing. We want this governor or government to be talking to people. He has been keeping quiet, it has been silent on so many issues. Should talk, give people that assurance. Even if the assurance will still be delayed, give them. Look at the road that lead to Nulafenwa to Randa. No, people are suffering. If you see the number of people that live around that area, I don't know why government is not doing anything. It just closed a part in Lafenwa. It's about rain now. Why can't they speed up the arrangement? These are the part of things that people will see and then say they enjoy government.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap this up in about 12 more minutes. So, want to allow you to be a part of the conversation as much as possible, okay? Feel free to call us 0704 400 1067, 0704 400 1067, 0817 444 1067, and 0817 555 1067. Any of the headlines we've read, it's okay for you to weigh in by sharing your thoughts with us, or any of the ones that Dawood has provided some analysis of sorts to is also okay for you to weigh in on. And we're also live on Facebook for you to send in your thoughts, WhatsApp and Twitter as well.
All right, well, let's look at a story that has appeared on all the three papers that we've read the headlines from, and that's the arrest of ex-Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha as he faces interrogators over money laundering. It says the AFCC arrested a former governor of Imo State and senator representing the Imo West Senatorial District at the National Assembly, Senator Rochas Okorocha. It says here that last year, the head of the EFCC zonal office in Port Harcourt, River State, Usman Imam, said 7.9 billion naira belonging to Imo was seized from the former governor. Imam, who has been in charge of the ongoing probe of the former governor, said the commission returned over 5.7 billion naira to the state government to pay salaries and pensions of workers. Daud, what do you make of this?
There's a trend. When a governor, another party takes over from a government, you see that that's the past government will be pro. Sincerely, but when the same party, still continues, sincerely, you won't see. Let me give you an example in Ogun State. When JNI lost the election, Gbenga could not, what's it called, succeed in making JNI governor. And then, so PDP lost the PPN, and then PDP lost, and then Amosu won through AC. And then it was very easy for the EFCC to prove. I was there at the first day. EFCC could not proceed on the matter. They said the government must produce a VAT. Goya step on his successors to he also be pro because of how he now every probe will end up as guilt. No. Okay, come and explain this. We will be held accountable. So how many governors? Have stolen our money. He need to account. Lola in Osun. Has it been probed? Do you see any sign that it will be probed? These are issues. So Okorocha will be probed because he has been giving the current governor. Let's occupy him. And that's why in Ekiti, Fayehun will also be probed because he was succeeded by another party.
Somebody via the telephone line. Yes, you're tuning into Splash 106.7.
My name is Pastor Solomon Tide.
All right, please go on.
And I'm calling from Hope Kingdom, Kadua Butarias. I know that how to do.
Yes, sir. Go know my house. Thank you, sir.
God bless you, sir. Now, I want to share my thoughts on the